What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and with the exciting news that James Worpel has joined the Cats via free agency, and basically, as far as we know, our free agency work now done during this free agency draft and trade period. I wanted to reflect on the various wins and losses that Geelong had experienced through free agency over the years. Go on a bit of a deep dive, go through the history of free agency, see what the compensation was, see who we picked up and what the opposition teams got for their compensation, and really pick through this whole story and see if we've come out with a bit of a net positive, because we've had some big wins through free agency over the years, but I'm sure there's probably some losses that we've all forgotten about as well. So we'll pick through all of it and we'll work out what worked, what didn't, what did the Cats get, either via compensation or via the actual free agent themselves, and we'll see what wins and losses there were. So fortunately, to help out with all of that, the AFL put together an article in the last few days, really fortunately, that said every free agency compensation pick ever and where they ended up. And it's got a whole deep dive year by year, so we can kind of scroll through and maybe have some quick casual conversations about some of those along the way. But the main thing is the player. Did we pick them up or did we lose them? And what did we give? What did we get as compensation for that individual? So I'm looking forward to going through this entire video with you. There's quite a bit to go through. I mean, this goes back to 2012. There's a long, long time that free agency has been a part of this system. Now, I'm looking forward to going through all that with you. But first, let's take a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now let's go back to where it all began, 2012. Brendan Goddard was the first came off the rank there. Now Geelong isn't a part of this transaction whatsoever. The Bombers picked up Brendan Goddard, and we can see here, Tom Hickey was kind of wrapped up in it, which is not a bad thing. Jesse Lonergan did nothing. Tommy Sumner did nothing. Spencer White did nothing. Greg Broughton didn't really do anything. Tanner Smith, Trent Dennis-Lane, Tim Membry, worked out okay. St Kilda got a band 1, pick 13 compensation for him. Now I want to keep because one of the big topics of conversation in the last 24 hours has been around Jack Silvani and the pick 19 that he got, and that's the same as what Hawthorn got for Buddy. Please, let's not get carried away. If you're making that argument, you don't understand how this system works. So let's continue to march through here. Troy Chaplin didn't involve us. Daniel Pearce didn't involve us. Jared Rivers and Brett Maloney did. And one of the great tricks of free agency is about what's coming and what's going, and you can kind of bundle these things together. It's why when we hear about West Coast getting Brandon Starcevich, but they're also losing their big key forward, the big, whose name is just completely escaped me. Their big key forward Oscar Allen, who's about to depart to go to Brisbane. They want to trade for Starcevich so it doesn't mess up with their compensation, because depending on the number of players going, where they're going, the amount they're getting paid, who's coming and who's going, that can kind of affect it. It's a cumulative thing. So they want to make sure they get compensated one at a time, case by case. Jared Rivers and Brent Maloney. Rivers went from Melbourne to Geelong. Maloney went from Melbourne to Brisbane, having already been a Geelong player as well. But the cumulative of what they lost there netted them a pick 48, which they used on Dean Kent, and fine. The Q stick, Clinton Young, Dale Thomas, when he departed, was a big one. You can see there's some decent players wrapped up in that, namely Dom Sheed, who came back to bite the Pies on the ass with a goal, a premiership winning goal later on. That is even funnier. They lost Dale Thomas. They ultimately, through the movement of picks, gave West Coast Dom Sheed, who kicked a goal to cost them a grand final. You couldn't script this stuff. There's the big one, Buddy, pick 19. That was purely based on where Hawthorn was. So you get a pick immediately after, like it was the absolute, like band 1, the absolute top, which is a pick immediately after your first pick in the draft. They won the premiership that year. Pick 18, done. So pick 19 is what they got. Billy Hartung and John O'Segler didn't offer them a lot. Billy Hartung in particular didn't offer them a hell of a lot. John O'Segler ended up becoming a cat. Colin Sylvia was a really interesting one because Melbourne, he went from Melbourne to Freo. Melbourne got the band 3 pick 23, which they then exchanged for Bernie Vince, which then Adelaide used for Matt Crouch. Winners across the board, I would say there, except for Freo. Nick Del Santo, an interesting one. Dan McStay was a part of it. We got pick 41 in the transaction, which then allowed us to get, because Trent picked Brisbane Dreams to exchange for Trent West, which we then used to pick up Jake Kolodjasny. Cats got a win there out of Nick Del Santo going from St Kilda to North. And then us losing Trent West. Frawley was obviously a very controversial one immediately after Buddy because Buddy went for pick 19. James Frawley went for pick 3. But again, it's the same banding. It just depends on where the team is at the time. Sean Higgins, not a lot to see here. Mel Chesky, not a lot to see. Scott Selwood obviously went to Geelong, so we got Scott Selwood in return. West Coast got pick 37, which they then used with pick 36 to exchange for pick 23. Sydney used 36 and 37 to help match a bid for Callum Mills. And West Coast got pick 23, Luke Partington, who's a name I've never heard of. So Geelong won that deal for Scott Selwood, as did Sydney. Matty Leuenberger, departing pick 37, got Eric Hipwood for Brisbane. That worked out okay for them. I don't think he's nearly as good as some will say he is, but worked out okay for them. Matty Suckling doesn't involve the Cats at all. Chris Main, there's a bit of some more complicated components there. But Freo got picked 25. They gave to Hawthorn to get Brad Hill, which then funny because Brad Hill ended up making his way over to Victoria. It was a whole thing. So could we use Josh Battle, turned out pretty good. Hunter Clark shows lots of promise. He can't get his body right. Hawthorn traded pick 10 and a future second to Gold Coast in exchange for Jago Mira. The Suns used pick 10 to get Jack Bowes, our boy now, who got pick 7 in a salary dump. Geelong, win again. Ty Vickery, not much to see here. Shea Bolton, though, worked out pretty well. So good move there, Richmond. Daniel Wells, Josh Williams, that tanked for North Melbourne. Tommy Rockcliffe, Brandon Starcevich, we obviously just mentioned him before, pick 18, Starcevich, now looking to go to WA. Stevie Motlop departing the Cats here. So let's pick through this one a little bit. This is I saw this one when I was planning the video here, and this is a wild circumstance for Geelong. There's more to this than what this article would suggest. So Geelong to Port Adelaide, Stephen Motlop. We got pick 19, again, band 2, so it's the end of first round, but that happened to be pick 19. We traded pick 19 along with a second to Gold Coast in exchange for Gary Ablett, 24 and a future 4th. So we got Gary Ablett, we got pick 24, we got a 4th, all in exchange for pick 19, which is what we got for Stephen Motlop. Stephen Motlop went to Port Adelaide, did some good things, won them a game off his own boot, but no massive loss for the Cats. We got Gary Ablett back, who put in some pretty good years for his last couple before retiring in the end of 2020. Gold Coast used pick 19 to get Will Powell. Hasn't really worked for them. Future second, which was a draft night swap with West Coast that helped them draft Jez McLennan, pick 23, didn't really work. Future second ended up with the Western Bulldogs, who got Latham Vandermeer, who's got potential but hasn't really demonstrated yet. But the main thing here, Geelong used pick 24, received in the Ablett trade to draft Tim Kelly. Now, if you recall, Tim Kelly then went to West Coast down the line. We end up with 3 first rounders. We got 2 first rounders in the whole process because he nearly won a Brownlow that year. That then got bundled up with our first to get Jeremy Cameron, who won us a premiership more or less off his own boot with some of his performances throughout 2022. So Stephen Motlop gave us Gary Ablett and gave us Jeremy Cameron and gave us Tim Kelly. Thanks, Stevie. Tom Lynch, not a lot to see here. Scott Lysett, not a lot to see here. Lukey Dalhouse joining the Cats. The Dogs got pick 32. They then traded 32 and 57 in exchange for 34 and 41. The Dockers used 32 on Luke Valente, 57 on Lockie Schultz, who's turned out all right, but obviously is now a Collingwood player. The Bulldogs used 34 to match on Riley West, who's now really starting to display his worth, and Ben Cavara, who's gone nowhere. Alex Fasolo, no Geelong stakes in that particular one. Brandon Ellis was a straightforward one. Adam Tomlinson, straightforward one. Cam Ellis Yeoman, didn't really do much regardless. Joey Danaher, when he went from Essendon to Brisbane, obviously worked out pretty well for them. Zach Williams, from Greater Western Sydney to Carlton, GWS received band 1, pick 12, which they then used to pick up Tanner Bruin, who's now a Geelong Cat, and we don't talk much about Tanner right now. Brad Crouch, straightforward. Sam Berry's showing a lot of potential with the Crows right now. Aiden Core, not a lot to see there. Rory Atkins, pretty straightforward as well. Isaac Smith, a Cat, a Norm Smith medalist, and a premiership player. So whatever the net result is of this, Geelong won. So let's have a look. Hawthorn to Geelong. Hawthorn received band 5, pick 41. Hawthorn traded 41 and 45 to Collingwood in a draft night pick swap in exchange for a future second. The Pies used pick 41 to help bid on Reeve McInnes. The Hawks used the future second to draft Sam Butler with pick 23 in 2021. Sam Butler, he may or may not work out for them. It's still fairly early days. Maybe Chol, no Geelong implications there. George Hewitt, nothing to see. Jake Kelly, nothing to see. Carl Amon, nothing really to see in 2022. Dan McStay, Liam Jones, Jaden Hunt. 2023, Ben Mackay, which is still a laughable one, pick 4. But again, this is how the system works. It's a combination of what you get paid amongst many things. And Essendon was willing to pay big dollars. They got him. Pick 4. They used on Zane Dersma. Again, early days in North Melbourne, but there are some rumblings as things speak that he actually wants to get to Essendon. We'll see how that all shakes out. Tom Doty going to Brisbane hasn't really worked for them yet because he's been continuing to have these knee problems and various other injuries, but I wish him all the best because he's a fantastic player, and this should have been a fantastic deal for for Brisbane. Hasn't really proven to be worth it yet, but also they've won premierships without him. Adelaide got pick 27 to recruit Oscar Ryan, who's done nothing. Jade Gresham, Lance Collard for St Kilda, not much to see there. James Jordan, not a lot to see in terms of what he's offered. Like, he's doing a solid enough job, but Harry Sharp was wrapped up in this trade, who's proving to be, I think, all right. Angus Hastie's a name I'm not familiar with at all, and Gold Coast used pick 40 to help match a bid on Ethan Reid, who is going to be good for Gold Coast. Matty Flynn, Joe Fonte, again, pretty early days, still a lot on both sides of the transaction here, a lot to still be proven. But for West Coast who need decent players, Matty Flynn's going to be useful for them. And then you've got your most recent full free agency period. Josh Battle going to St Kilda. They got Alex Taru, the Flying Viking, who is absolutely fantastic. So I think a good deal for St Kilda as they continue to rebuild, especially with the work they've been doing now, getting Silvani in the door, potentially Alir and others coming in. Their defense is going to be in good shape without Josh Battle. Hawthorn have picked up Josh Battle, who's a pretty damn good player. Harry Perryman, again, this is one of the trick here. We're seeing these players pop up, but they're not really this. They're off the back of their first year, so we don't know a lot about Harry Oliver yet. May end up being okay. Isaac Cumming, Cody Angove played against us earlier in the year, the Cats, and put in a decent performance from what I recall. Could be decent, but it's still early days. Jack Graham going across to West Coast. Pick 42. Richmond traded 42 along with 32, 43, 45 to Brisbane in exchange for 20. The Lions used pick 42 to help match the bid for Levi Ashcroft, while the Tigers used 20 to get Harry Armstrong. Again, much still to be seen, but Levi Ashcroft is now a premiership player. So looks like winners across the board. Jack Graham's been pretty handy for West Coast. So that is where we're at off the back of this history of free agency so far. Now, if we quickly flick across to the AFL, like to the news here, we can take a look and just double check what actually occurred when it comes to the Warpedo, James Warple, coming across to the Cats, because Hawthorn have received, I'm just trying to find it here, compensation was late second round. Apparently we're not posting that. James Warple compensation. It's currently stands as pick 39, but that of course is subject to change based on other selections in the draft so far. So that is a look at Geelong's involvement in free agency so far, and I would say there's no losses here. absolutely no losses. Geelong has won every single time through free agency. Either the players come to them, or when we've lost someone, we think about like the Tim Kelly situation. There was trade there, but the picks came in, and then all that led to Jeremy Cameron. We got Gary Ablett, Jeremy Cameron, Tim Kelly, all for the loss of Stevie Motlop. That is an absolutely phenomenal butterfly effect there. You love to see it. And I'm curious to see how these things continue to play out. What will Hawthorn do with their pick 39? That remains to be seen. Sometimes these picks find a way back to the clubs of origin just through other trades and transactions anyway, so we'll see what happens there, or to different clubs altogether. But thank you all for having tuned in and checked out this video. The upshot is Geelong doesn't lose when they go to free agency. They just don't lose. They then go to the table and draft incredibly well, or they use those picks, bundle it up, and get someone else. It's phenomenal work from Stephen Wells, Andrew Mackey, and the team. They've done an amazing job for many years now, and I look forward to seeing what they can do in the future, as well as, of course, the players that come in the door. James Worpel, all the best, and I hope you do a phenomenal job in the blue and white hoops. Thank you all for having checked out this video. That is a history of free agency and the Geelong Football Club, and it makes for pretty good reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like this video, subscribe to the Hoops Crew on YouTube, and check out all of the content we're publishing on our YouTube channel. From myself, Ben, and the chaps. You'll find us on Patreon, patreon.com/thehoopscrew. If you enjoy all that stuff on the YouTube channel, consider checking out our Patreon. It costs $5 a month to get all of the early access, extended, and exclusive content that we're providing there, and that content gets delivered directly to your email inbox. There's also a 7-day free trial to see if it's for you before you commit any money. You'll find me on socials at Paul James Games. That's Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. The Hoops Crew you'll find at The Hoops Crew. And until next time, remain Geelong strong, everyone. Welcome to Geelong, James Worpel. I'll see you later.